Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. Today I'm back again with the Moon Man, or Majohn V60. This is now the demonstrator version of the pen. I have just been delighted with the Omas clone. These pens with their triangular form that are basically copies of the Omas 360, which you can no longer get. It was a pen that was designed in the 90s in many different versions, including a demonstrator version. But when Omas ceased to be, they stopped making this pen. And these pens now, if you can get the vintage ones on eBay, go for under around $1,000 or even more. The demonstrator version, there's one that I just saw on eBay, and somebody was asking almost $2,000 for this pen. I got this on eBay for $27. And I have had great luck with the yellow version of it. Now, I must say that Doug of Inquiry Minds, who I enjoy his videos, really has been on a tear against this pen. I think it's one of the pens that he said is the worst of 2024. He doesn't like it because it's hard to take apart. And indeed, the original Omas pen was hard to take apart. A lot of very expensive pens, like Montblanc pens, are not easy to take apart. And it is a piston filler, and it would be nice if you could easily remove it and clean out the pen, but it isn't designed that way. The nib doesn't screw out. However, you can change the nib. I showed you how to do that with the yellow version. So here are three versions of the pen. The black version, which is the one that I originally got. The black has the gold version, and this one still has the pen nib, the Moon Man Majohn. Keep in mind that for various reasons having to do with the name and trademarking, Majohn was originally Moon Man, but it supposedly can't call itself Moon Man in Europe, so it's kind of interchangeable. On the pen itself, it says Moon Man. Anyway, when you get the pen from eBay, or I think it's available on Amazon for more money, it comes with a extra fine or a fine nib in this gold. The nib is perfectly okay, but not great. I don't like when I'm writing fine nibs. I prefer medium or broad. And initially people said, well, you couldn't take the nib out, or it was hard to remove the nib. I found out, and I did a video about it for this yellow one, that if you run it under hot water, or heat up some hot water and soak the pen in hot water, and you gently nudge it out, that you can get the nib out. And I replaced it with a Jowo nib, and it works fantastically. The piston is very good. Now, it's not easy to clean because you can't screw out the nib and easily the way you can with a, let's say, Pelican pen. But it will come out, and I recommend, since the pen is so affordable, to get one and just use the same color in it the way they used to do in the old days, in the vintage period, or the period before really 2000. People usually kept either blue or black ink in their pen, and that's what they used. And so you didn't have to be constantly cleaning your pen out. If you are changing colors a lot, then I wouldn't even recommend using a piston pen. I would go with a pen that uses a converter, because that's the easiest kind of thing to clean. Anyway, I was able to nudge the nib out and put in a nice Jowo nib. And then when I saw that they had this demonstrator version, which if you had to buy the Omas original in a vintage and you bought it on eBay, would cost you well above $1,000, but for the same price I leaped at it. And I just wanted people to know that it is really a really beautiful pen. This is it in red. I think it comes in other colors. I think there's a blue. And the great thing about this is that you can see the piston and the ink in it, so you know when it needs to be refilled, and that's very handy for a pen like that. The demonstrator version also, interestingly enough, is in chrome rather than gold, and I actually prefer that in general to pens that have sort of this gold that is really fake gold. And I think this is a really beautiful pen. I also have to say, after I've been using the pen, the yellow pen, and with the Jowo nib, and it works great. I've had no problems with flow or writing with it. It's just a really terrific writing pen, and I was able to do the same thing, but in this case, I put a stub, Jowo Stub nib in this that I got a gold spot pen. So you see the, I don't know if you can see it, but there's the G of gold spot pen on it. So here it is with the stub. With the stub, I have Waterman Intense Black in it, and it writes great. It's thin, like you expect a stub to be when you go left and right, and it's very thick when you go up and down. Not great for reverse writing. And typically of stub nibs, and I think Jowo stub nibs are relatively smooth, but there's usually a kind of sweet spot if you're writing with it. This is great. It's nice and wet. And I really do like this triangular design. When you look at it, you think, oh, well, is this really comfortable? But actually, it is very comfortable. It's also quite nicely polished, so it feels very good. And given the fact that you can't buy this pen anymore, I think this is a really terrific value. I'm not sure how tariffs are going to affect its price. I suspect that it will go up in price. So if you take the route of removing this to put in a new nib, you have to do it very gently. The little fins of the feed have a tendency to sort of bend. And if you bend them, all you have to do is sort of take a tiny little screwdriver and sort of put them back in place. It doesn't seem to really affect the ink flow so much, but that's something to keep in mind. And what I did is I basically ran hot water on it and then gently sort of nudged it back and forth, and it came out fine. But you sort of have to know, once you've done it, then you know you can do it again. It's one of those things, and you feel like at first when you're doing it that it's not gonna move. And the same thing back when you're going backwards, putting it back into the pen, you have to sort of find the sweet spot and push it back in gently, keeping in mind that you want to position the nib and the feed so that it lines up with the triangle. Otherwise, the pen will not, you'll be writing in a kind of cockeyed way. So it's all very doable in terms of replacing the nib and putting in a better nib. And then I was able to get this stub nib from Gold Spot Pens for $15. So the pen itself was $27. So the combined cost there is just around $40 for what I think is just an amazingly beautiful pen, particularly in this demonstrator version. It looks kind of jewel-like in this lovely red. So I think this is a very terrific pen. You can see the says Moon Man, and it has this Greek scroll design. It snaps on and off. and it's quite smooth, and the piston writes very, very well. I think there is a video online where I saw that somebody had a tool, I think similar to the kind of tool that you use perhaps on a Mont Blanc, and was able to take the whole pen apart so that you could clean it, but you do need a special tool in order to do that. It's quite, the other thing to keep in mind is a very big pen. As a way of comparison, here's a Mont Blanc 149, and you see that it's bigger than a Mont Blanc 149. So that also may be a problem for people to have a pen that's so big. Anyway, this is a strongly recommended pen as long as you change the nib.